Easy.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
How are you?
Hey, who wants to help me get this recorder out of here? I need some muscle over here.
You are listening to Blame Your Brother.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody, back to Blame Your Brother. We are streaming the show right now live on YouTube, youtube.com/blameyourbrother. So come hang out with us on Thursday nights if you have nothing to do. Tonight we have a very special guest. We're down one of the blamers, and we'll talk about all that in just a second, but I will introduce myself as we proceed here. I am David, a.k.a. D-Brew, voice of the people, Glenn Jackson, the spiritual midget. And tonight, John is not joining me. He is under the weather, but we are joined by Courtenay Rogers. Courtenay, say hello.
Hey, how are you?
All right, so do you have any nicknames?
Yes, my nickname is Coco.
Really? There you go.
Yep.
So
Coco Rogers.
Coco Rogers, everyone. So yes, we're here with Courtenay Rogers. She contacted us on social media, so social media still works.
Yes, I love me some Twitter.
And you're running for office here locally, kind of locally adjacent, and people will have a lot of questions. I do. Definitely your story and all that, and we're going to get to all of that. But John is not feeling well. I don't know if he wants me to tell, but I'll just go say he's experiencing the joys of kidney stones. So if you've ever had one, I have not, but I've heard they're very terrible. So I don't know.
Yeah, he did not look very happy.
No. But he was kind enough to set up the studio for me, and so we will miss him. He'll be back next week, I'm sure, to talk all of that fun experience he had. But, that's it. We're here right now talking to our guests. So, Courtenay Rogers, you are running for, go ahead and explain to the people what you're running for, and then we're going to kind of explain what that even is, because I think most people don't know.
Yeah, most people have no idea. So I am running for Williamson County Commissioner in District 10, and I explain it very simply that the commission is really not a sexy job, okay? So it's making sure that the infrastructure is in place. Roads, sewer, schools, parks, the things that keep a community going.
Yeah, the very important things.
Very important.
I mean, most people, and I know this because I work for a municipality. I work for the sewer and water. And before I started working there, I never once thought about sewer mains, water main, I never thought of any of that. Right.
You just turn on your sink and the water comes out.
Right. But there's an entire infrastructure, entire teams putting this together. So
a lot of planning. Yep.
All right. So this is for, like you say, District 10.
Yes. So Williamson County is divided into 12 districts. And so I'm running in District 10, which is parts of downtown Franklin, but more along the Liberty Pike corridor, where the factory is.
Yes.
And then if you're heading into Franklin, the Hard Bargain area, and I would say a little bit off of like the Royal Oaks Mallory area. It's an interesting, small little district.
Yeah.
I actually got redistricted out of 12 into 10.
Oh, wow.
Yes, which is going to work in my favor. So
you go.
I was all about that one.
Sometimes it works out.
Sometimes it does.
So the most important thing, people are listening, they will listen, they'll download it, they'll do whatever. How do they find out? What's the best way to find out which district they're in? Because, most people don't know.
No, most people don't know. And I don't ever want to shame someone for not knowing, right? Because it's confusing.
Very.
In fact, we just got redistricted. I mentioned that. I did not know that I had been redistricted. When I decided to run for office, I just happened to know the right person to call and ask, can you look up my address, right? And that's how I figured out that I moved districts. So the best way to look up the district that you live in is if you have your voter registration card. So if you're a registered voter, it's that green card. It should be on there. And then you can also go to the Secretary of the State website and look that up. Now, not sure how accurate that data is. But we've been told that they are, quote, working on it.
Okay.
Now, you just looked yours up. It was accurate, and it said it was accurate as of the 4th of the month. So, yes. And you can also just Google, what district do I live in?
Yes.
And then it's gonna drive you to the right place.
I always think that when anyone ever asks like any question, like, how do I find your podcast? Just type in the name of our podcast. Yes. I swear it will
come up.
But some people are older and they need a specific place to go, or even some younger people I work with, they need very specific instructions. So I understand.
We're all busy. There's a lot of information coming at us. Yes.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay. So you're running. so talk to me about, because I want to know more about your early life and kind of how you got here. Where you grew up here?
So I did not.
Okay.
My family is from Williamson County.
Okay.
Both my parents grew up in
Okay,
Franklin.
gotcha.
So cute, like high school sweethearts, fell in love, got married when they were 20 and 22. They've actually been married 51 years.
Wow.
But my dad went to the Naval Academy and then was a commissioned naval officer and was a career naval officer for 30 years. So we moved all over the country.
Yes, I bet you did.
Yes. And then I followed in my dad's footsteps.
I saw that. It was very
Yes.
interesting. Now, so where are some highlights of some places you've lived? Was this like all U.S. or did you go outside the country ever?
I have only lived in the U.S.
Okay.
But are you ready to be jealous?
Sure.
I was stationed in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible.
For how long?
For 3.5 years.
That's nice.
So that's when I was in the Navy. I was born in California.
Okay.
Don't remember it, but I'm sure it's cool. Then we kind of moved across the country to the East Coast. But I lived in Charleston, mostly grew up in the Jacksonville, Florida area, and then the Northern Virginia area.
Wow.
But my grandparents and great-grandparents were always in Williamson County, and so that's where we spent Christmas and summer. And then my dad retired in 2000, the same year that I was commissioned. That was pretty cool because he actually got to commission me. He swore me in.
Wow.
Yes, that was really, really neat. So, but they retired in Franklin and actually live in the home that my mom was raised in.
Wow. Very
Yes.
cool. That's nice. Now, so your dad's naval, you see that. When did you know, like, I'm going to go into the Navy as well? Like, was this something you knew early on or did it hit you like later in high school? I'm always curious, you know.
Yeah, I was little. It was the first time I saw the Blue Angels and I was like, I want to be a Navy pilot.
That'd do it.
And then I grew up, but I didn't get very tall.
Right.
And so I'm only 5 feet tall and I'm actually not tall enough to be a pilot. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll go to ships.
There you go.
So I honestly, so I went to the University of Mississippi to party and have fun. And I partied a little too hard my freshman year. And my parents were like, okay, so you need to get your act together. And so I thought, all right, I'll join ROTC. And I had to get my act together. So I had to maintain a 3.5 GPA. I worked out every morning. Basically, my freshman year there was a big difference between my freshman year and the rest of my collegiate experience. But so I would say like I always knew that I was interested.
Right.
It wasn't until I actually got to college and started kind of hanging out with some ROTC folks, and I was like, all right, I could do this.
Right. So me and John were in we were in Police Explorers, which is kind of an offshoot of Boy Scouts, but it's for people interested in like law enforcement careers.
Okay.
And so we would, you go meet every week with these officers, but they started doing kind of a ROTC adjacent program, drill, marching, blah, blah, blah. And I said to me, I was very like quiet, kind of shy in high school years. And kind of going through that experience, really, I've kind of tried to tell people like it kind of changed my life in many ways, but it's kind of, I would tell people to go on ROTC. I tried to tell my son to get into it, who's 14. He's like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, okay. But
you either are or you are not.
But I feel like I've always felt like there's kind of a stigma. So like, it seems like it's a very Republican thing. Like it's a very conservative type thing. And I think that's why a lot of people that lean more progressive probably shy away from it. When
I could see that. Yeah. When I was in the Navy, I was actually a very conservative Republican. So I think your instinct might be right.
I was too. So that'd definitely be interesting to see.
Yep.
When I was president of the Young Republicans in high school. And I always say I grew up in the South, grew up Church of Christ, grew up, my dad would be like, oh, Reagan was great. Reagan did this. I knew nothing about, I just, hey.
We didn't pay attention.
He's saying it. It must be true. And my dad was like, not a rich man. We were very poor. So, that kind of myth continued. It was only until, I guess, for me, I definitely want to hear when you kind of felt differently about it. But I think it was just talking to friends and a lot of them would go, dude, you're not really a Republican.
Right.
Sure, you believe in hard work and all that, but do you believe in this, and that? And I'm like, well, no, of course not.
I'm not.
Well, I'm a libertarian. That was kind of oh, no, I'm a libertarian. And then I just went, oh, no, I'm not even a libertarian, because I feel like libertarian is like the gateway to get out of like the party. So, but some people go worse. Some people go Tea Party libertarian. I kind of went Democrat. So, So what to you? I can imagine if you grew up in a military style house of, like I said, a lot of people.
Southern military Christian, relatively conservative. Yeah. I was also told when I was in the Navy, and honestly, I didn't care about politics at all.
Right.
Not one bit, which is a luxury and a very privileged perspective.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But I was always told that Republicans are the ones that will take care of the military. Always vote for Republicans because they're the ones that are going to get you the raises. Again, I wasn't doing my own research. I just listened to people. I realized when I became a mom at almost 30 years old, something just changed in me. You know, you have a kid and you're like, oh, I'm going to do some self-reflection.
Yeah.
I should probably be a better human. So we were talking about Google earlier.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. She was about 6 months old and someone was having a conversation about Barack Obama. And I was like, oh, I want to learn more about this person. And I Googled him and I was like, okay, Democrat, cool, like what he has to say. And then I Googled, what's the difference between Democrat and Republican? And like what your friend was telling you, I was like, I am not a Republican.
Right, yes.
Like not at all.
Right.
So Google, thanks Goog.
That's great because so me and my wife, I was 30 years old when I had my first kid. And I think that definitely, but I was still, like I voted for John Kerry. Like, so I wasn't always like, I don't want, like I was very Republican, but Bush, like I couldn't stand what he was doing. So I was like, I'm going to vote. And that was like a big to do among my friends. Like, you're voting John Kerry, dude. What's going wrong with you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not voting for Bush. But to me, you're right. When I had me and my wife had our daughter just 3.5 years ago, to me, that really changed like a lot. It was, I have 2 boys, but having that girl, I don't know, man. It just, my perspective changed on everything. You're right. And I just went, I don't care, man. I because a lot of it, if you have a lot of friends, I feel that are of a certain political, persuasion, you're just kind of inclined to go along with it. A lot of us are in our echo chambers and until you get out, that's why I say it's great I'll have a debate with anyone. Like, I mean, if you're a conservative, you want to come over and talk, let's go. If you're like super progressive, let's go. Yeah. I think there's some value to all of it as long as it's not being done, there's a lot of people that are angry and just want to yell at each other. But when you actually are just like, okay, yeah, I hear you. And but all that. So,
well, there's a lot to learn. And I just said this yesterday. I was doing a phone bank training for some volunteers. We have to get out of our echo chamber. Yes. I find myself, because I surround myself with very progressive thinkers, and I have to go, okay, not everyone thinks this
right
way.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't mean I have to necessarily agree, right? But it is really important, especially as a candidate, to understand thought processes.
Sure. Yes. So now you do the naval thing, you come out, what are you doing after you get out of the Navy? Like, are you?
Well, I found a man. I got married. So I met a guy on the ship.
So a military guy.
Yes.
Okay.
This is my ex-husband.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The father of my child. Honestly, I got out of the Navy to get married to this guy because he was still active duty.
Okay.
And it just wasn't going to work with both of us. And let's see, we were stationed in Pearl Harbor. That's where we met. Amazing place. I got out of the Navy, married him. We actually got married in Franklin, Tennessee, the same church that everyone in my family got married in. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to Key West, Florida. So you were saying like if I've lived cool places. Yes. Key West was a blast.
That's a good one, yeah.
So 25, just married, no kids, partying.
Best
so
life.
much fun.
Right,
yes.
yeah, for sure.
Then we left there, went to Maryland where he went to grad school, had our daughter, and I happily divorced when Claire was 1.
Wow.
And then came back to Franklin. Okay. And my parents are there. They're there. My brother was there. And I was like, oh, I'm 30 years old. I'm a single mom. I didn't expect this.
Right.
I need family. And I thought, I'll just go to Franklin, figure out what my next step is. Well, my kid's almost 15, and I'm, very ingrained in the community. And I love Franklin. I love Williamson County. We've got a lot of work to do, but it's a great place to raise my child, and I love being around family.
100%. I tell people, and a lot of my friends have done the same thing. I'm a Nashville native. I grew up in Nashville, lived there my entire life. And then me and my wife was like, let's start a family. I'm like, well, we got to move. And so her parents lived out near Spring Hill. So that's kind of why we went that route. But we were looking at either most people that go Wilson County, Williamson County. And I mean, look, that's probably a reflection on Davidson County as a whole and some of the issues with the schools and some of the crime rate. And I used to work police department, so I can tell you there's, crime's not that great in certain areas. And just when you look at Williamson County, it's far enough away, but the schools are number one in the entire state. I mean, so when you're thinking of your kids, so you're handing them off to someone every day, that's priority number one. Like if I have to live next to a guy who has a Trump 2024 sticker up, literally, this is true, that I'm looking at every nice guy, but I'm like, I guess I'm just going to have to deal with that. I would rather be around progressive people like in Davidson County, because if I go out, like I ended up just talking at a music show at a bar, you get talking about, oh, Bernie Sanders. I was like, all right, this is great. But like, you live where you live. And so.
Yeah, I would like to say that there are about 40% of the voting population leans left, if not full Dem in Williamson County. The problem is that for far too long, I think people were very quiet about being Democrats. I'm not a quiet person. I ran the first time in 2016.
Okay.
Against Glenn Cassidy.
Yeah, that guy.
Well, that was really fun as a first-time candidate. I got recruited to run, had no idea what I was doing.
So who recruits you? Like, who comes to you?
Twitter.
Oh, really? Wow, no.
So, okay, do you remember, when did you move to Williamson?
Oh, I've been there since 2005. So.
Oh, okay. So do you remember in 2013-14 when the Williamson County schools, the first time they got taken over by the far-right extremists?
Yes, I do. Yes.
So Claire, my daughter, was starting kindergarten. And I was like, oh, I should pay attention to school stuff now,
sure, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was part of the group that said, no, we're not doing this.
Okay.
You're not going to come in and bring your, at the time, it's like fill in the blank. What are we against this year? It was deep Islamophobia.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I'm laughing, but it's this was actually presented like, look at the population of Williamson County. Where do you think these quote unquote Muslims are coming from? The county is like, I don't know what it is. It's got to be 90% white.
Probably more like 75 to 80% actually. And there is there's a pretty strong Muslim community in Williamson County.
Really?
But this was just hate, and they just
picked the
Muslim community
and
to target.
This has happened. Yes, it happened in England. There was a Serial, the podcast did an entire series about it that just came out. But yes, so anyway, so
that happened. I said, no, this isn't going to happen in my backyard. And I actually wrote the petition to, do you remember the name Susan Curley? I feel like I shouldn't be talking about these people and giving them attention.
God.
But she was the school board member who was just really just angry and hateful. And we were like, you're not going to do this. And so I got the petition started. Thousands of people signed it. I asked her to resign at a school board meeting, and she didn't just resign; she left. She's out here.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
okay.
I remember. So it wasn't just me. I was just kind of the loudest.
Yeah.
And so Congressman Cooper's chief of staff, Lisa Quigley, reached out to me. She slid into my DMs on Twitter, and she was like, I've noticed that you're very involved with your local community, and you're outspoken. We are recruiting women across the entire state to run for office in 2016. Hillary Clinton's going to be at the top of the ticket.
Wow.
We want to have a bunch of women down ballot, and we don't think any Republicans, incumbents specifically, should be running unopposed.
Right.
And I was like, oh, no way. There's no way I can do this. I immediately went into I don't know this, I don't know that. And I said to her, I was like, I don't know any of this. And she said, this woman did not know me. We know each other well now, but she said, Courtney, if you were a man, you would have already said yes.
It's true. I mean, yeah.
So that was on a Wednesday. I said, give me a week to think about it. That Friday, I showed up at a Williamson Inc. event. About once a month, they bring your legislators and you just talk about what's going on. And I'm involved with my community. So I showed up and I looked on the stage, and it was 5 older than me white men.
Yeah.
And then I looked in the audience, and there were a lot of people that did not look like those men on stage. There were women in the audience. There were people of color. There were young people. There were older people. And I was like, these people do not represent Williamson County. And they think they do, but they don't. And so I literally texted Lisa Quigley at that moment, and I said, I'm in.
Okay.
And that was 2016. And it was really one of the best things I did. It was a lot of work.
I bet.
But, so I'm a liberal progressive Democrat. Running in Williamson County at the time against a 16-year incumbent. I raised $75,000 and got 11,001 votes. And I was really proud of myself.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's very impressive.
That wasn't even 30% of the vote, but
But still,
11,000
yes,
people
I mean, yes.
went into the ballot box and they're like, yes, I believe in Courtenay Rogers.
That's great.
And myself and another woman named Holly McCall, she ran as well in District 65 in Williamson County. We started the Blue Wave in Williamson. In 2018, we went from 2 candidates running in 16 to 19 running in 18.
That.
Yeah, and now I'm the vice chair of the Williamson County Democratic Party and running for office again.
So before that, you had no idea like this was your path at all. Like some people,
whatsoever.
some people in high school envision a path of just, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a politician. Yours is just like, I spoke up. This is like things that happen in movies. Like you speak up and they're like, hey, come run.
Come run.
That's great. So
yeah, I just know that I'm not afraid to speak up, and I was raised to care about other people.
Right.
And I just realized that there's a lot of people who are afraid to speak up, or they are being, they're in maybe a protected group, and they, of course, are getting more hate and just being abused by, and it's not, it's not up to them. And I was like, well, I'm not afraid to speak up. I'm not afraid of bullies. I'll do it.
Right.
I also realized how much I love figuring out how government works. I'm an operations person, so I actually started my own company a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, specifically doing operations and logistics.
Okay.
Government is operations and logistics.
Yeah,
and
pretty
people,
much.
right?
Yeah,
and I love meeting people. I know a ton of people because I truly love meeting folks and connecting folks. I have an operations mind, and I ask a lot of questions. And so turns out it's a good fit. Now, I haven't gotten elected yet, but I'm good at running.
There you go. I mean, there's some. Well, there have been many people that have run multiple times, but staying in the process, staying involved, usually gets you somewhere in politics.
Yeah.
I mean, people name recognition is like everything. Which I have to say, I did Google. I searched your name.
I know what you're
I'm
gonna
sure
say.
you already know this, but I was like, and I'm very I'm a terrible speller. I'm not like terrible like with certain words, but certain words just throw me off. And so I've like dedicated, I was like Courtenay Rogers. Okay. Courtenay. Okay. But then I was like, I Googled it and there's another Courtenay Rogers that comes up, not in a good manner. Are you familiar?
She and I are very opposite. So she was running for office at the same time when I was running for office in 2016.
Oh no.
As a state representative, wait, it gets better. She's also a veteran. Now she's an Air Force veteran. I'm Navy. She made it to colonel. I made it to lieutenant. So she definitely outranked me.
Right.
So radio ads were very confusing to people. And she was running in, not Wilson, Sumner County.
Okay.
So, kind of far away from Williamson.
But still,
But like when you hear the name on the radio.
Oh, it's, yes. I mean.
People were calling my parents going, I had no idea Courtenay moved to Sumner County and she's running, and they're like, well, no, she lives in Williamson. She is running, but it's a different one. All of 2016, I would introduce myself. Hi, I'm Courtenay Rogers. No, I'm not that Courtenay Rogers.
Wow.
Yes.
That is wow. That's what a coincidence.
So
I mean,
at least we spell our names differently.
Yes, that's true. If it had been the same, that would have been
real interesting.
But but there is a power to name recognition.
Yes.
So, if people, you get it out there long enough. So as you're running this year, what are some of the biggest obstacles, like, just to get your name out there? I mean, what are you looking to do? Do you have any like game plans that other people don't do to use social media? I'm always curious how people use current social media, if that's effective. I mean, maybe for entertainment I'm not really sure about politics, but I know most politicians have, various forms of social media.
Yeah, I've got a pretty good digital footprint.
Okay.
I think it's because I got on Facebook and Twitter right when it was getting cool, like at the very beginning of it. I also do spell my name weird, so I just went and got all my handles.
There you go.
And so everything's, Courtenay Rogers.
That's good.
So yes, I think social media is important, but it is also important to understand a lot of voters are not on Twitter.
That's true.
Twitter can be an echo chamber.
Right.
A lot of voters are on Facebook, but it's still mostly noise. Honestly, the way that I will win this campaign is by knocking on thousands of doors.
Okay, so
we are going to knock on 10,000 doors. I told this to my field director yesterday at we were doing some training for phone banking, and she's like, 10,000. I was like, yes. She's like, we can do this. So it's face-to-face. It's having conversations with voters. I love being in the community, so naturally I will continue to go to events. I'm really reaching out to leaders in the community and asking for introductions.
Okay.
So maybe I don't know somebody. You go to a church that I am not familiar with, or you're just part of a community that I am not familiar with. And so I'm asking friends to introduce me to people. Luckily, I know a lot of people. It's still a very small town.
Right.
Which is good and bad, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so when you knock on someone's door and you're like, hey, I'm running for this county commissioner, what are some common questions? Like, are they like, what does that even mean? Like, what is it? I don't understand. Like, I know how I would react if someone came to my door, but I'm not the average person. I would probably ask a bunch of questions.
Right.
But does the average person just go, all right, thanks? Or, I mean, what kind of do you encounter? Because
well, when I ran in 16, so I actually start knocking doors this weekend for my county commission
gotcha.
race.
So when you ran last,
so in 16, I learned very quickly not to knock doors during SEC football games because I was like the devil knocking on their door. It didn't matter if they were going to vote for me or not. They just stared me down. So I'm not kidding you. I would look on Saturdays and Sundays. I would look at the football schedule and make sure I wasn't knocking doors during a very special football game.
Yes.
I figured out very quickly to immediately thank the person when they open the door for being a voter. So as a politician, I don't have, and I'm, grassroots. I don't have a ton of money. I don't have, corporate PACs in my pocket. I'm not talking to people who aren't registered to vote. We as a party, the Williamson County Democratic Party and the Tennessee Democratic Party are doing a big push for voter registration.
Gotcha, okay.
But as a candidate, I'm just knocking on doors where I know you're a registered voter. There's all this data and things. There's prep on the back end. So I actually know whose door I'm knocking on. It's not a total stranger.
Okay.
I know who's supposed to answer the door. I use this app, and I know who's supposed to answer the door. So if I'm thinking it's a Mr. Smith that says he's an 85-year-old, and a young woman answers the door, I'm like, oh, maybe they've moved. So I need to make sure I'm talking to the right person. But hey, thanks for being a voter. I am here because you are a registered voter. Because a lot of people are like, how did you get my information? They immediately think like I'm there to do something.
Right. Yes. Of course they do.
So I'm like, hey, thanks for being a voter. I'm Courtenay Rogers. I'm running for, at the time, state representative. And I want to know what keeps you up at night. So I'm asking them questions.
Wow. Okay.
So in the county commission race, it'll be very, very similar. County commission is obviously, it's a smaller area that I'll serve. But the things that we're talking about are our schools fully funded?
Right.
The answer is no.
And people the average person that's not 85 years old is probably very concerned about that. So
I think in Williamson County, going back to you were saying this is why y'all moved to Williamson County for the schools. So we are known for our public schools.
Yes.
So even if you don't have kids or grandkids in the school system, most people know how important it is to keep our schools at the top.
Right. Yes.
Right. It keeps our property taxes low. And it really does draw people to Williamson County.
Yes.
The state of Tennessee is morbidly underfunded, billions of dollars, right? And that, of course, just trickles down into the local areas.
Right.
Everyone likes to talk about how Williamson County has the best schools in Tennessee, and we do. But Tennessee is 45th in the nation, so we're the best of the worst.
Yeah, no,
right?
We're
the best of the worst. And our teachers are leaving. Our teachers are being abused. Our teachers are not paid enough, and that is something that a county commissioner can do.
Okay.
The biggest thing that a commissioner does is fund the budget. And it's $250 million budget, and then 3/4 of that goes towards our schools.
Okay.
So it's prioritizing that money. Is it going in the right buckets, right? And clearly our public schools have to be, not just funded at the capacity where they are now, but they need a lot more money.
Right, yeah.
The growth that we're dealing with in Tennessee, especially Middle Tennessee, massive
it's crazy.
Growth,
yeah,
right?
It's wild, yeah.
But every time I see a subdivision pop up, I know where our schools are, and I know that we're at capacity, and I just wonder, where are these kids going to go to school?
Yeah, it's a good question. Right.
And that keeps me going, and it keeps me talking to people and explaining to people why this is really, really important. I don't think in Williamson County at the commission level, I don't think we use technology very well at all. I'm a technologist. I'm an optimizer. It's what I do all day long for my day job with my clients. And so I have some great ideas of using just very simple technology, very similar to what Nashville does. You know, when you hit a pothole in Nashville, you can go to the Hub Nashville website and you can report it.
Yes.
We don't have that in Williamson County. And I was talking to the county mayor a couple weeks ago, and I said, if someone is driving on a road in Williamson County and they hit a pothole, how do they know who to call? Is it a city road? Is it a state road? Is it a county road? And he was like, well, they don't. And so people just start calling all over the place. They'll call their alderman, which is a city elected official.
Right.
They'll call their county commissioner. And I was like, why don't we build a portal that shoots the information to the right people? And he goes, that's a great idea. I was like, well, that's now a campaign idea.
There you go. Yeah, it should be.
But using technology
Yes,
to help
very
us
important.
grow. Yep.
It's interesting that you list that, which I think most people would agree, right? It was one of the Glenn Cassida mailer thing I got.
Yeah.
It was listed on as one of his things he was going to do. I was like, okay, I doubt that. But yes, we definitely, technology needs to get implemented more. I mean, you still see in Metro, certain parts of Metro don't even have online payment systems for like major bills. And you're like, come on, guys.
Well,
Like,
and when COVID happened, think about all the people, like if you weren't set up for ACH or for direct deposit, they were waiting for their paper checks.
it's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
I haven't had a paper check and I don't even know when. Like
Now that I'm a candidate, I write a lot of paper checks.
There
and
you
it's
go.
for the paper trail.
Ah, there
it's
you
kind of
go.
ridiculous.
Okay, yeah.
But I do, I will mail out checks instead of, so we still have to use checks sometimes. But,
there you go.
but companies, corporations, yes, we don't need to be doing that.
That's true.
Everything should be digitalized. Everything.
So some important, like you said, we're distributing the money correctly to the right places, the technology, that's all great. So these are just some of your platforms of people listening. You know, obviously they would support that. I'm curious about the 10,000 doors you're going to knock on. How do you find people that are committed to this? It's a passionate thing. Like you're asking people, hey, come with me. I mean, I've volunteered before in the past, but
Noted.
you know, yes. But how do you find these people? Like, what is the best ways to find passionate people that want to help local elections?
I ask a lot of people for help. And
Okay.
it's something that I did not do a good job of really until probably I ran for office the first time. And I
Okay.
was like, I can't do this on my own. So, and people love to be asked. People love to be asked for money. So I'm really good at raising money.
That's crazy to me.
I know, right?
Yes.
But it's like they feel like you really are asking them to invest in you. The thing about politics, it's not a tax write-off. If you hand me $1,600, which is the maximum amount you can hand me per
Okay.
election,
Mm-hmm.
and I lose, you just threw, I'm not going to say you threw away because you helped me do
You
something,
invested,
right?
but-
You invested, but it's not like you get to write it
Yeah,
off on your
right.
taxes. So the way you find people, one, I'm very, obviously I'm the vice chair of the Williamson County Democratic Party. So I start with, the friendlies, and I start with the people who have said, I want to help. But what's really cool is I have perfect strangers that will reach out to me through my website and say, I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only Democrat. I want to help you. In fact, last night at this first training I had, it was a husband and wife team. They found me. They just heard about me. They said, I want to help. And they showed up and they had their 2 little kids with them. And I taught them how to phone bank and they want to knock on doors for me.
Wow.
And it turns out the guy, he's a Marine. So of course we have to like each other. He's awesome. But he was like, oh yeah, I'm also a CPA and I'm really good with spreadsheets. And I was like, dude, can you help me do my financial reports? He's like, absolutely.
Wow. Look at that.
So that's less time that I'm having to deal with paperwork
Yes.
and that kind of stuff so that I can be out knocking on doors. It's really important for the candidate to knock as many doors as possible because the people that are talking to
Right,
you, they're
yes.
like, oh wow, the person actually
Right.
showed up. But the way we find the people to knock on the doors is through voter data. That's access.
Okay.
Anybody can get.
Yeah.
Like you could go to the Williamson County Election Commission if you wanted to and buy all the voter data for
okay.
however long.
There you go.
So it's out there. It's also public record. I always tell people not who you voted for, but when you vote and what election you vote in is public record.
Okay. Look at that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I guess that all makes sense. It all is out there. Certain people go get it. I've known people that get some public information and it always blows people's minds. But I mean, it's listed.
Yeah. So just remember when you're donating to people, that's also public.
There you go,
Yeah.
people. Remember that.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's talk about a few news stories this week. We always like to do
All
this with
right.
John. So obviously the big story is the confirmation of Ketanji Brown Jackson. The thing
Supreme Court Justice Brown.
she's great.
She's amazing.
I always get her name, the two last names. I always have a problem when the shorter name is the first name, because just it should flow. Ketanji Jackson Brown to me just flows. So I've definitely got to get over that. But yes, she was actually, it's going to happen. She's going to be the first
Confirmed.
female Black Supreme Court justice, which is mind blowing that we're in 2022. Honestly, I mean, really people want to think about that. And this is the first Black female to be on there. You know, it's insane. You know, took some
Is it
trouble.
though?
I mean,
Have you read 1619 by Nicole Hannah?
I have not, but I've heard
Jones?
people talk of this. I mean, I understand that. Yes.
It's incredibly unfortunate and disheartening, but it's not surprising.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you understand how our country was founded.
Because I mean, you just looked at her entire process, and it was a circus in the wrong kind of way. I mean, the questions. Look, I may not like a certain conservative person. You know, the last two, I feel there are enough holes you could poke at their resumes. But these Republicans literally said, "I like you." I mean, this you can go find the quotes of them going, "I think you're great. I think you're qualified." But no, and it's like that should not be acceptable.
It shouldn't be, but no one in their party is being held accountable,
That's
nor
true.
do they hold their people
That's true.
accountable. Donald Trump,
Yes.
people still think he's a president, and he has no accountability whatsoever. So I actually, going back to like getting out of our echo chambers, I have had to think about this. Like, how in the world could that happen? It's very easy. If you have been raised a certain way,
Right.
and there's no accountability for your actions, and you look up to someone like, let's say, Donald Trump, and
Right.
he was the most powerful man in the country,
Yes.
doing and behaving the way that he did, why wouldn't you act like that?
Right. I mean, yes. It's
Don't
right.
do it, but that's why.
But just that's it's maddening. I mean, this was, look, Reagan, whatever you think of whatever, at least there was an idea of his followers. I'm not saying him, but his followers thought they were doing the right thing. I mean, maybe they weren't, you know, I mean, that obviously they weren't.
Reagan was real racist.
Right. He was. But I think the majority of the Democratic voters that voted for him, I mean, and there was a lot of working class people, they thought he at least stood for what was right. Right. I mean, George Bush, Donald Trump to me really cements the first time in American history where the voters just said, I don't care. I don't care if this man has done this. I mean, you look at his ramp up to his election. If any of those things would have happened to any candidate before him, it's game over.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just look at the affair with Stormy Daniels, just that.
Or the video.
Yes. That would have sank any candidate. And these people literally just said, I don't care anymore. And I know these people. Like I know people that literally voted and said, I do not care. I would vote for anyone but insert Democrat. I'm just like,
well, in that case, it was anybody but Hillary Clinton.
Right. Yes.
Who was the most qualified person who has ever run for office. And she's a woman. That's
right.
why.
Yeah.
Straight up misogyny.
Yeah.
Straight up. Patriarchy, misogyny, like all of those.
Right.
All
Yes.
of those things. Yeah.
And one of the things, you know, and I said this always about the conservatives, is they know how to play the game though. Like
they're so good.
They are ahead of the curve, and that's why they're dangerous. Like they just look. We all know the dude went to the Russians. It's documented at this point. He was looking for stuff. I feel they gave him some things that obviously the emails, which no one cares about, really substantially no one cares about. Just be truthful.
No, not at all.
But
like no one cares about Hunter Biden's laptop.
No one cares. No one knows that you talk to the average person. They don't even know what you're talking about. Like I follow politics and I really don't even know. I've tried to read about it and I go, I don't care. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But the questions they were asking her, just the disrespect.
Yeah.
And look, I know, and so the other side's going to go, well, you did the same thing to Kavanaugh. I'm like, yeah, but Kavanaugh, he was accused of a crime, man. It was sexual assault, okay?
By more than one woman.
And these people, well, they get these women. Do you think this woman would get up in front of a nation of people, reduced to tears, telling these stories for what is her final goal? I mean...
That's exactly why women don't tell
Of course,
stories.
that's why they don't report it. Yes.
Yeah. And from that, I went back and did a lot of reading about Anita Hill.
Crazy, right?
Yes. And at the time, I was very young and I wasn't paying attention. But women are treated horribly in this country, especially women of color.
Oh,
Period.
yes.
Yep.
Look, like I said, I was a huge conservative during Clarence Thomas. And even then, back then, I went, this does not. I remember just being a young man just going, this doesn't seem right. Like, this is not how you talk to people in a workplace. Like, because I was always like a very like moral, like high authority person. So I went, well, no, he can't talk to those people. But once again, at the end of the day, it's just about party with most of these people.
Yeah. I mean, it's lack of empathy. It's lack of accountability. Yeah. And then the conservatives have Fox News. I mean, they have a very dangerous but extremely powerful tool.
Yes.
Brainwashing generations of human beings, and the Democrats don't have anything like that, and I'm glad we don't. I don't want something like that.
Right.
But it is incredibly dangerous, and I'm very lucky. My family, we're all rural. I'm not going to say Dad's probably right in the middle, but no one voted for Trump. We don't have to talk about Trump.
That's
or
really
politics around the Thanksgiving table. But going back and thinking about what Fox News has done to especially the older generation, I have a lot of people that I know my age, and I'm 44, saying that their parents are just gone. They're just lost. And it's incredibly dangerous. And I truly, truly believe if we got rid of Fox News, we would be in such a better place.
I see that point, and I've heard this before, and I've thought about it quite a bit. And I think that one of the biggest things that confuses people is the name Fox News, right? I mean, people at some point learn you can just put news on anything, and it doesn't even have to be news. Like, they are categorically not a news organization. They are a entertainment organization. When they are sued for the things they say, they literally just go, oh, this is just a bit. This is just a satire. This is not real. Like Carlson Tucker literally has said before, I don't really, this is kind of a character.
Yeah.
But the listeners do not follow that.
Right.
And I think it would be hard for me to say we have to remove them from the air because
Is this your libertarian coming out?
Well, I think it's just that we are a country founded on free speech, even if it's stupid ideas. Like you pick the simplest thing, like on Twitter. If you say, if you want to fight on Twitter, just say, does pineapple belong on pizza? And people would lose their minds. Like,
yes, with jalapeno and onions.
You think that?
Absolutely.
So you would have to go because I think that is ridiculous.
I'm getting kicked off the podcast.
but do you get rid? And John's in the chat right now. He said, "Do you get rid of Facebook as well?" Because you could argue that Facebook is way more dangerous than Fox News. I have relatives that are glued to Facebook, and they believe everything. Some of that stuff is wilder than the stuff they say on Fox, which is because there have been branches of organizations now that pop up, OAN and Newsmax, that are worse. Which, for you to even say worse than Fox, you're like, how is that possible? But no, it is possible. I would just say, the first rule I would make, if you cannot put news, all of them, I would see CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, you have to strip, your name has to be called Fox Entertainment, should be the name of the program. And every episode begins with, this is not news, this is entertainment. And I feel that might cut down some of it, because, I'm glad you said that, because actually, it's crazy. We were talking about that. So I found this story that I always like to read, one good one this week. And this is about...
Look at that background. That's so fun.
Yeah, this good old Carlson Tucker. I used to have friends go, he's a pretty good guy. And I was like, I don't know about him. Okay. This is the story. It came out April 4th. Fox News viewers who were paid to watch CNN for 30 days eventually became more skeptical and less likely to buy into fake news, according to a new study. The study, titled "The Manifold Effects of Partisan Media on Viewers," what a title, beliefs and attitudes, a field experiment with Fox News viewers. I'm sorry, that was the whole title. Was published last week. Of 763 participants, we randomized 40% to a treatment group to change slant on media. We offered them $5 per hour to watch 7 hours of CNN. And after that, they found that their changes in attitudes about COVID, President Donald Trump, and Republican candidates as well was definitely slanted. So,
it's funny. I read that exact same article.
How wild is that, though? That is insane to me. It's a bit scary, truthfully. Especially when you had your last president who, if you would have said, hey, Mr. Trump, let's just be honest here, we're going to let you run a state-run media, he would have been like, yes, 1,000%, let's do it. I mean, he basically
did it.
Yes, I mean, yes. I mean, it was what it was. Even like his social media platforms, they are failed because they're terrible.
Everything he does
touches,
is
is bad.
terrible.
And people go, well, he's worth money. Yeah, dude, if you gave me the money he's had, I would make as much money
his
as
dad
probably more.
handed him that
Yes.
money. Like, it's literal white male
Yes,
privilege.
it is. It is the definition
Like,
of
we watched it fold out.
Yes, white privilege manifest is literally what it is. But
Yeah, that should be actually
but
the
that
name
don't
of his book.
so I just think when you discuss news, like I say, it's like in my fantasy utopia society, sure, Fox News wouldn't exist, but I feel if you removed it from the air, you would have to take all the others with it as well. Now, if we're
I'd
good,
be all right with that.
if we're good removing all of them,
Yeah. I don't watch news. And in fact, my husband and I have, so I got remarried last year.
Yes,
So,
okay.
happily divorced.
there you go.
Yes.
New husband.
New husband, amazing human. He loves him some news.
I do. Local or
Oh, he has a whole smorgasbord. Depends on the
Okay,
hour and the day.
so he's like me. Okay.
And I will say he does, hi Yancey, he does PR, and so he's in media. So
Okay,
it's very
gotcha.
important that he does stay aware. But he watches the news. Now, I read my phone, right? I have
Right.
it curated to where I know what I want to read, and I follow the
Right,
people.
yeah.
So he gets up a little bit earlier than me. He's like downstairs doing something. I'm more upstairs getting coffee, and then he'll be like, hey, I was watching the news.
Right.
And I already know, I hate it because I know he thinks I'm one-upping him, but I'm like, yeah, I already read that.
Right.
And he was like, did you hear about it? I'm like, I read that on Twitter. And he was like, did you? And it's just kind of a joke with us now.
Right.
He still gets his media from the news outlets, and I don't. But we're both pretty equally informed.
Yeah.
So,
It's how.
yeah, I just don't like the noise of the news. And it doesn't matter what I'm watching. Like,
Right.
even local versus if we're watching MSNBC. Now, that Sunday, the CBS Sunday show, is
Yes.
that? I'm butchering the name. Where it's like feel-good stories.
Yes. It's yes.
Love brings me joy.
Okay.
Very sweet.
Right. Yes.
But the minute politics or war or anything like
Right.
that comes, I can't listen to it.
Okay.
It gets into my head. When Donald Trump was a president, I could never listen to the news because when I heard his voice, it would actually make me start shaking. Like, he had a visceral
No, I
effect
get
on
that.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, your husband is in the chat and said
Hi,
hello.
Yancey.
Said love the news. I love local news like more than anything. I just love it. I love the dynamic of the people, especially you can kind of get to know them.
Yes.
And you kind of like
Especially on Twitter. I
Yes.
act like they're my friends on Twitter.
I'm really friends with some of them. They still like people that left here still contact me, and you can get some of the drama, and you're like, oh, okay. But I'd like to play a game. Sometimes in the afternoon, I'll say, okay, I'm going to turn on CNN, I'm going to turn on Fox, I'm going to turn on MSNBC, and I'm going to try to guess what each story, what story they're focused on. And I swear I have about a 75% rate of getting, because any moron could do it. Like, just pick the opposite thing. Like, there was something huge going on. Oh, the Capitol, the January 6th stuff was going on.
The insurrection.
And Fox News was talking about things where you're like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's the moment, really, it should be marked in history. That's the moment that, honestly, the politicians should have stepped up and said, Trump, you're done. You're never running again. They had the chance, and they whiffed on it.
Yeah.
And that's
That
to blame
would've-
for
That would have taken accountability.
right. It's crazy. I mean,
It's real, and that's the part that scares me, but that also is the part that keeps me going.
that's right. Yeah,
And that's why I know how important it is to get involved with
Right.
local politics
100%.
and to know what's going on,
Yes.
because we're dangerously close to our democracy failing.
Yes. I
And
mean,
I'm not being an alarmist. We're dangerously close.
yes.
And more people need to pay attention and stop fighting on Facebook and go help somebody who's running for office.
That's
go
true.
get
Yes.
involved.
Yes, because the entire process of our country working is, yes, I understand we all think differently. We were all raised differently.
Right.
We all have different views. We all see the world differently. No one's going to argue that. The Republicans act like we all want everyone to be these, hyper progressive people that, whatever. And then I'm sure the progressives think the Republicans want everybody to be fascists. And look, there probably are extreme borders of both. But at the end of the day, I think most of us, if we sat down, really came together and said, let's actually talk. I had a friend who's he's a coworker. He's an acquaintance, but he's a super right winger, and I'm like not. And so we talked the other day, and it was crazy to me because we actually sat down. He's a reasonable guy, and we started talking like issues, and we were like, yeah, okay, yeah, man, we could, if that. And I was like, this is how it's supposed to work.
Yes.
But you're right. We are on the chasm of being the opposite. I think January 6th was kind of the blow up to it all, where a guy who just went around saying crazy things his entire presidency finally just said the craziest thing. We're just like, just go in there and just like take it over.
Well, the worst part are the people in Congress that now we have realized they were part of it. But even during that moment, didn't do anything to stop it.
No.
I mean, I hold elected officials to a higher level of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And that, it broke my heart, broke me immensely.
It was a tough, honestly, it was just a tough period. It was just watching, it was like, it was surreal. Like, what's crazy, I was thinking about, you joined the military before 9/11 happened.
So I was commissioned in May of 2000.
Okay.
Did my training, took me about 6 to 8 months to actually get to Pearl Harbor, and then 9/11 happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I spent longer forward deployed because of 9/11, and then our lives changed completely.
Right.
So, I was really in charge of ramping up. I was one of the officers in charge of ramping up security on the ship the day that it happened.
Oh, jeez.
Which I was in Hawaii, so minus 7 hours. So it was really early in the morning.
Yeah.
And actually, my dad called me. This was, we had cell phones in 2000, 2001, but not like how we are now.
Yeah, right.
No.
No,
right. But for someone to call me really early in the morning, and Dad, all he said was, "Get your bag and get to the ship." And I mean, I had no idea what was going on.
Wow.
And I didn't leave the ship for a very long time.
I bet.
And so luckily I had my bag. But our lives as active duty military changed drastically.
I bet.
But I tell you what, we were treated with a lot of respect. There was this outpouring of love for our troops, and we united as a country. And that's gone.
Well, it is. I've always heard like certain comedians or certain podcasts talk about it. The only thing that could probably unify the country now would be like an alien invasion. I'm like, I don't even know that it would work. Honestly, I think half the people.
Have you seen the movie Don't Look Up?
Yes, I loved it. And I thought, I think it's an accurate representation.
Extremely accurate.
If Trump was still in office, it's 100% what would have happened. But I said 9/11 because, January 6th, 9/11, when you see these things, it's hard to really process. It's hard to accept it's a reality, but the truth is it is. So you're right. And a lot of it is local elections.
Yep.
Yeah,
I tell people all the time what happens at the alderman level, and aldermen are called different things depending on where you live. But the lawmakers for your city and your county and your state drastically impact your daily lives.
100%. Yeah.
What's happening at the White House, it's going to trickle down. We definitely feel it, but it's nothing compared to, and look what's happening in the state legislature right now in Tennessee. All those local lawmakers are the ones forcing these child marriage, Of course, I saw
crazy.
that they today did raise the age.
Oh,
to
did they?
18.
Okay.
So now it's just an added to the the slate of hate bills. Now it's just targeting the LGBTQ community. But I mean, those people in the State House are drastically impacting our lives every 100%. Single day.
Yes.
Yep.
And it really, if people probably didn't raise enough noise about it, it probably wouldn't have been changed.
Absolutely
and
not.
There's probably people upset that it was changed, truthfully, because we know that a lot of those people have track records of liking younger women. And I say women, younger girls, because these are, anyway. Yes.
That
so
makes my stomach turn.
It's rough, really, when you see like news reports come out about the state, like Marshall Blackburn, who is, my representative. I hate to say that.
I went to Ole Miss with her daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I don't look. I followed her for a while. She was not this crazy back in the day. I mean, she was conservative.
So I have stopped saying crazy.
Okay.
And I say extreme.
Okay, extreme. She was not quite extreme. Well, yes, that's probably a better word.
Yeah.
Quite extreme as she is now. She is one of. There was obviously Taylor Greene, Boebert, and now she's kind of like, the triangle of extremity.
So she's trying to be Trump's vice presidential pick.
Okay. And so there was talk of that when he ran the first time.
Well, because he's going to run again.
He's definitely going to try. People say that, and people ask me because people listen to the podcast and go, "Do you think he could run again and win?" I'm just like, yes, I really honestly do, because if you ask me, could he run the first time?
Yeah.
That was my last podcast. This has been years ago. We would talk about it, and we just went, "There's no way."
Yeah.
And now we've realized there is a way of anything happening. And I know a lot of people thought, and I will say this about Trump, a lot of people thought it was funny, it was cute. And I think people I know voted for him just going, it's funny, and I get it. Wake up, people. It's not funny. You cannot take these things as a joke. You can't go, I'm voting for Kanye West. No, you got to step up and actually research and vote for the right person.
Yeah. And from the president down. And in off years.
Yes.
Which this is an off year. We're in the midterms right now. Absolutely. It's incredibly important. And I do understand the two-party system is kind of broken.
Yes.
Like, I'm a very proud progressive Democrat, but I'm a very firm believer that we should have more than two parties.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this binary world that we live in, right? And now we're starting to learn about non-binary, which specifically, gender is what a lot of people talk about. But everything does not have to be one or the other. But until that is the case, we have to shore up and fix what is left of our democracy now. So Tennessee is one of the absolute worst states when it comes to voter turnout, voter registration and voter turnout. Wow. And I feel that. I feel it as a candidate, and I feel it as the vice chair of the Williamson County Democratic Party. We have got to get more people registered to vote. We've got to get young people registered to vote. But I also understand why many folks from marginalized communities don't vote, because what are any of our, especially in Tennessee, what are our elected officials doing for them?
Jack.
Nothing.
So I'm with you. I
feel it, but that's why. So huge full circle, knocking on doors. That's why I love knocking on doors, because I love to hear the stories. And I truly ask, what do you need from your elected officials? What do you need to make your life better living in Williamson County? I learned so much from people. They help with ideas or solutions, or, hey, I used to live in another state and we had this as a process.
Right.
And so that keeps me going. I mean, that keeps me up late at night, but it keeps me driven and focused and motivated to run for office.
There you go. It doesn't get much better than that. So, okay. So now we need all the details because people will be listening. So
First of all, I have to say, I really like how you did my picture there.
Well, there you go.
I look really fabulous. Thank you.
There you go. I really didn't do much. Right? It's just you. But people generally, when they come on, I like all the art you do. I'm like, it's fun. I like it. It's fun to play around with it. Okay. Let's talk about dates.
Okay.
Places. What do they need to be looking for? All that fun stuff. I'm going to lay it out here because this is the selling point right here.
Yes. Okay. So if you live in the state of Tennessee, so it's going to be the same no matter where you live. We have primaries on May 3rd for county level seats and below.
Okay.
So in Williamson County, that's going to be your county clerk. We've got your county commissioners, school board. That is all happening. Your primaries are May 3rd. In the state of Tennessee, you do not register by party. You pick which primary you want to vote in. So if you're a Democrat, you want to walk into your election commission, and when you go vote, and you ask for a Democratic ballot. So that's May 3rd, but we are an early voting state. Early voting starts April 13th. Oh my gosh, that's next week.
Wow, that is next week.
Yeah, that's
crazy. Yeah. Wow.
And runs until the 28th. As a candidate, I beg you to vote early. The reason is because once you have voted early, we can cross you off of our list and we can continue to reach out to people who haven't voted yet. Okay. So that's happening for the primary. So then whoever wins the primary will go into the August general.
Okay.
So that's where you've got your Democrats and your Republicans running against each other. The August general election, this is confusing. The August general election for the county level serves as the primary for the state levels. Okay. So all the people who are running for state offices, they'll have their primary in August, figure out who the Dem and the Republican are, and then they'll go on to their general in November.
Okay. So basically we're looking at May,
August, November.
Okay.
Yes.
And are you running against anyone?
No,
Democratic?
I have an uncontested primary. There are 2 Democrats running in District 10, but we will both make it to the ballot because we have 2 commissioners per district.
But still, you still should show up and vote, for
Yes,
support.
you should absolutely. So it's also, if you vote in primaries, you're much more likely to vote in generals. Again, candidates, we love those people because we can kind of count on you for that vote.
Right, yes.
And yes, as a person who has given up, I'm not even going to say given up, I made this choice, but it takes a lot of work to run for office.
Yes.
It feels really great when people get out and vote. Hopefully they vote for me, but just vote.
Yes.
Just vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got all the information. And I do want to say that I try to take my kids with me whenever I go vote.
All the time.
That way, and I kind of stress, like, and this is how, this is how they learn, and so I would say if you have kids and you can take them with you on those days, take them with you.
Yeah, and poll workers and poll watchers love it.
Oh,
They're really excited when the kids come
Yes.
in. I took my daughter when she was 8 when I ran the first time, and I hope I don't get in trouble for this. I actually let her push the button, and she thought it was such a big deal,
Yes.
and I got teary-eyed because I was like, I just watched my daughter vote for me. She knows what she can do when she grows up, and she's watching me, do the work.
Yes.
So, but my parents took me to vote with them, and we've always been voters.
Yeah. So it kind of just
Yep.
gets it in there. But you got the dates.
Yep.
So, okay, go ahead and give out all your social media and all your website, all that, because people will
Sure.
want to go there.
So you can find everything about my campaign at CourtenayRogers.com. I'm going to spell it for you.
There you go. Yes. Spell it.
It's Courtenay Rogers.
Yes.
CourtenayRogers, no D, ROGERS.com. And then I'm just at Courtenay Rogers on Twitter. I do have a campaign Facebook page. I got off Facebook a year ago. It was the best thing I ever did.
Go. Good idea.
But I'm back on it just for my campaign, and it's elect Courtenay Rogers, and my Instagram is also elect Courtenay Rogers.
There you go.
Keeping it simple.
All right, so you got all the ways. Courtney, thank you so much for coming out. It's been a blast.
Thank
it's gone
you.
very quickly. It's already been an hour, which is hard to imagine. But
yeah, this is way past my bedtime.
Yes, so we'll get you out of here. But but thank you so much for coming on. Like you said, you've got the website, you've got all the social media. We'll put that up in the show notes. So if you guys want to click on that, and if you're in the area, I know a lot of you are, go check out, see if she's in your district. If not, just show up and vote for whoever is in the area. But we'll be rooting for Courtney. You've been fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Generally, I'll ask John, is there anything else? He'll say, don't blame yourself, and you can blame your brother. And that's it. We're gone.